Well, greetings everybody. I want to talk about the Ringo TV special, Ringo and Friends live at the Ryman in Nashville, Tennessee. We'll play two concerts there with a whole bevy of guests. And the idea was to create the TV special from these two performances, I guess utilizing the best bits from both. And I knew a lot about this because at the time I was wondering, it's a little bit of a shame that Ringo is not on stage the whole time. Ringo only performs on certain songs, and some other songs are handled by other artists, and Ringo's not present at all. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm kind of disappointed that Ringo wasn't on all of the songs. But as the weeks went by and I started to get a better feel for this TV special and the idea behind it, I was much more accepting of it. And by the time I turned on my TV set last night to check out the show, I knew what I was in for, and I really, really enjoyed it. Because this is not just like a Ringo Starr concert. This is not just Ringo promoting his new country flavored album, Look Up. This is also a tribute to Ringo. Kind of like, in a small way, the concert for George Harrison was, where Ringo is honored by other people. And some of his songs in his catalog are covered, songs you don't usually hear performed. So that was interesting. Well, there were a whole lot of guests here. Among them, I'm going to read off some names: Sheryl Crow, Emmylou Harris, Rodney Crowell, Sarah Jarosz, Mickey Guyton, Billy Strings, Jamie Johnston. It goes on and on here. Larkin Poe, Brenda Lee, Molly Tuttle, of course, Warren Treaty. And people forget the drummer, and I want to give a special nod to the drummer, Jim Keltner, who's been with the Beatles as solo artist, especially since way back around the early 1970s. And it's always great to see Jim in the background. It was like watching Bangladesh with Keltner on drums. During the concert, there were a lot of little interview clips scattered throughout. They were never too long, they were never too boring. They were always just the right amount, and I think there was some interesting information in there. They go through Ringo's 1970 country album, the first one he did, Bukus of Blues. That gets a little nod. And you get to hear from Brenda Lee, who actually kind of supported the Beatles before they were really very well known, and was kind of like singing their praises, and talks about how she was touring with the Beatles. Interestingly, though, she remembers John Lennon as being kind of introverted and quiet, which is kind of interesting. And then you get even Paul McCartney has a little interview segment where he talks about Ringo's love of country music and says that he really introduced country to the Beatles, which is a little odd to me, because of course George Harrison was very much into the Carl Perkins and, well, the rockabilly and everything. But yeah, it was known that Ringo was a fan of Gene Autry, and that Ringo really did a lot of songs on the Beatles albums that were country tinged. There's no doubt about that. Act Naturally, What Goes On, etc., etc., Don't Pass Me By, and which was Ringo's first song that he ever wrote. The sequencing to this show I thought was very good too. I'm going to throw that in, because as originally presented back in February, I think Ringo was off stage for 3 or more songs at times, and it kind of really felt like, when I was reading the set list back then, it's going to be very weird without Ringo present. But the way they arranged the songs, they had just enough Ringo in just enough places coming back and forth, so that you didn't really mind, at least I didn't, when Ringo was not present on stage for some of the performances. It really was a good mix there. Well, I will tell you that some of the songs performed were Matchbox, Ringo with Jack White, who I forgot to mention, and when I listed everybody, Jack White, of course, was very instrumental in this. He does It Don't Come Easy, of course, my favorite Ringo song of all time. Although I was surprised, it seemed a little sluggish here and a little slow. And I thought, wow, I wonder if they're slowing down the pace, because Ringo, after all, is going to be 85 this year. And I'm thinking, wow, they're kind of like catering to Ringo's age a little bit here. Then I was so happy that I was wrong, because the next track, the Beatles cover version of the Shirelles song called Boys, Ringo is on drums better than ever, faster than ever, more rocking than ever. And I said, oh, good, everything's just the way it should be. So Molly Tuttle came out to do Octopus's Garden. Larkin Poe came out to do I Want to Be Your Man. And then we had the song Look Up, which is the title track for Ringo's new album. There were 3 songs performed from Ringo's new album. And when I was watching this television special, I was afraid they were going to cut them out or maybe cut 1 or 2 out. I'm glad they included all 3. Look Up is really a fine song with Molly Tuttle in support of Ringo. The 2 of them together are amazing. Molly Tuttle, I really wish she and Ringo would do more work together. Then we had Don't Pass Me By, the White Album classic, Ringo's first song that he wrote, as I said, with Jack White performing. Jack White singing the song. Then we had a song called Without Her by War and Treaty. That was from the album Bukus of Blues, the old country album that Ringo did. Then we had Ringo's signature song, the Buck Owens tune, Act Naturally, but Ringo was not there for that. We had it done by Rodney Crowell and Sarah Jarosz. Then the next track, What Goes On, the Ringo song, that the vocal that he does on the Rubber Soul album. What Goes On was performed, a song by Billy Strings and Molly Tuttle, but the highlight was that Ringo Starr was on the drums. Now, Ringo's done What Goes On in his concerts before. He's done it. He's performed it, but he's done it like up front as the front man with the microphone. This is the first time Ringo's ever played drums on stage to the song What Goes On. And what I liked about this performance was Ringo was having the time of his life. He was smiling, he was into it, and you could see him mouthing the words at times to the song, remembering the words, while you had Molly Tuttle and Billy Strings singing it. So I kind of love that. The next one was quite a treat, I thought. It was a version of I Don't Want to Spoil the Party, sung by Molly Tuttle and Sheryl Crow. That was really good. And, I Don't Want to Spoil the Party definitely has a country flavor to it. But, Ringo in the original Beatles song does not sing it. But it was included here because it's a country show, country flavored show, right? Then we had another surprise. There's a song from the Ringo's Rotogravure album called You Don't Know Me at All, performed by Mickey Guyton. And I really loved that performance. I thought it really elevated the song. I mean, I always thought it was okay, pretty good on the Ringo's Rotogravure album, but it really elevated it to something better, even, sung by Mickey. Honey Don't was performed by Billy Strings. Then we had Ringo come back for 2 numbers off his new album, Time on My Hands, which is a wonderful country flavored song, and the song Thankful. So it was great to see him get some mileage out of the 2 songs. To me, the low point of the show, it's just my opinion, was Jamie Johnston doing Have You Seen My Baby, which is such a fun, bouncy, crazy track in a way from the Ringo self-titled 1973 album. And to hear it done here, I thought it missed something. It really, the arrangement of it was kind of like lackluster to me. I didn't like that particular version of Have You Seen My Baby. Then we have Ringo returning to do the song Photograph, the classic, this time singing along with Billy Strings. Again, I got to say, Billy Strings, amazing. I knew he was amazing on guitar, but when you hear him singing as well, he's just adds so much to this, both vocally and instrumentally. A great job by him. Finally, we close out the show with 2 Beatles classics with Ringo on vocal, and we have the entire guest array getting onto the stage, surrounding Ringo. Everybody's on stage together to sing Yellow Submarine, and with a little help from my friends, both of which were a little, again, kind of slow and carefully paced in the arrangement, but it was just such a great spectacle that I really enjoyed it. So I think this is well worth watching. I think everybody who's a fan will enjoy it. You have to realize going in that this is not all Ringo all the time, every song. But boy, it's such a great nod to his career. It was wonderful also to see in the audience. I saw Olivia Harrison and I saw Ringo's wife, Barbara. And Barbara was all smiles, all happy. She seemed really proud of her husband, and rightly so. And people were mouthing the words to the songs, and I like that. I appreciate that as well. I would say Ringo was in great form. I think Ringo sounded great. I don't know if any of this was auto-tuned for the occasion. I don't know if any of it was pitch corrected. I don't know. All I know is Ringo sounded terrific. It's hard to believe the man is 84 right now. He's going to be 85 this year. And he just brings that spark, the Ringo spark we all know and love. I would say that during the interview segments, where you get to see Ringo talking a little about his new album and about some other things. Luckily, they did discuss the new album Look Up to a point. They didn't overdo it, and they didn't underdo it. To me personally, I thought they did a good job representing the album, letting people know it's out there. T-Bone Burnett, who's the producer and the biggest man responsible, who wrote so many of the songs, who performed on the album, who produced it. It was wonderful to see him talking on interview clips with Ringo. During the interview clips, Ringo seemed either just tired, because depending on when it was recorded, or maybe showing his age. I personally think, and this is no knock on Ringo, I wish people would understand that when I say that, I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not criticizing. I'm not picking on Ringo. I think Ringo's amazing. If I'm half as good looking as he is at his age, if I'm half as energetic as he is when I get to be his age, I will be very satisfied and happy. But I try to, just for the sake of fan observation, I'm starting to notice that when Ringo does interviews, he's a little slower. The man has a right to be. And like I say, whether he was just, he's aging or tired or both, not a knock against the man, just presenting it as an observation from a fan who's followed Ringo so many years. All right, this is really terrific. I can't recommend it enough, and I want to close by telling you two things. First of all, this is going to be also, I believe, streamed on Paramount Plus if you missed the CBS TV airing. And importantly, there's going to be a show coming very soon. As a matter of fact, it'll be today. I'm recording this on March 11th, later today, on the Talk More Talk channel. That's my other channel that I do with my co-hosts, Kid O'Toole, Ken Michaels, and our newest host, Darren DeVivo. Please check that out. It's going to be up in a few hours from now. Over at Talk More Talk, the four of us get even more into this. You get to hear not just me spew with my stuff, but you get to hear from my co-hosts what the other three think of all this. And Ken Michaels in particular was actually at the shows when they were being done. He was there live for the two shows, so he has a little bit to share about that as well. That's Talk More Talk, the other channel that I do, and subscribe, please. If you're not subscribed to Talk More Talk, it's a solo Beatles video cast where we talk all about the careers of John, Paul, George, and Ringo after the Beatles, all their solo works, and sometimes we even discuss the Beatles themselves as a group, depending on what's new, what's coming out as far as projects, releases. So please, everybody, check that channel out. Thank you for watching.